AfroTales Podcast is a part of the Connected Podcast Network. Chef. Yes, Glio. Don't you love how we get to share our stories and recipes? Yes, I enjoy it greatly. Do you know what makes it possible for everyone to hear us? Yes, Glio. Our voices, obviously. True, but it's also Anchor, a hosting platform that distributes the podcast to places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and others. Oh, yes. And isn't everything needed to make a podcast in one place? That's correct. And the best thing of all, Chef, it's free. Free, you say? Free. And all I had to do is download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So, you just had to download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Yep. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and do what we're doing now. Fantastic, Grio. Simply fantastic. I know, Chef. I know. Well, hello there. I'm Aman Mazingo, your storyteller, and this is season 2 of the AfroTales podcast, where we journey through the Americas and the Caribbean to explore the tales that grew from its African diaspora. I want to thank Art by Chalet for the beautiful episode art, and especially thank you for joining us on today's adventure. The Riddle of Old Witchboard. Now, there's this story of Old Witchboard, a boy named Crick, and his mother. She sent her son to the shop at the crossroads to get some provisions. And at the junction was a signboard with a sign on it saying that the king's beautiful daughter would marry whoever can give her a riddle she can't answer. After he bought a pound of flour, he ran home and told his mother about what the sign said. His mother said, "Boy, a dumb fella like you, dirty and stupid, how you gonna give the king's daughter a riddle she can't unriddle? So how you gonna get the king's daughter to marry you?" He said, "Mom, take this flour, please, and bake me 3 loaves so I can travel to the king's house and ask the daughter a riddle." So the mother fried him up 3 bread loaves. But she put poison in them because she was so vexed with her son. Now, old witch boy had a dog named Flory, and he took him along on his travels. After a while, the boy had to relieve himself, so he went into the bush and set down the bag with the 3 cakes. So while he was off in the bush, Flory, doing as all dogs do, stuck his head in the bag and ate all 3. And when old witch boy came back, Flory was lying down feeling sick. Old witch boy, he whistled for him, but found he couldn't move. Flory had died from the poison. Already the buzzards had begun to eat Flory, and the 10 of them were dead from the poison as well. So he said to himself, "Mother made 3. 3 killed Flory. Flory killed 10. That's a riddle I can ask the king's daughter." Right? Traveling on again and on, he reached a huge river, solid water like a lake. Along came a body of a cow that someone had killed and only eaten half, and the other half was bloated and floating there. So he jumped on his back and it went bobbing and bobbing across the river until it reached the other side. And now he said to himself, Mother made three. Three killed Flory. Flory killed 10. The dead carried over the living. So he kept on, going on and on, going until he came to an old church at about nighttime. The old witch boy didn't know where he was going to eat or sleep. He caught some birds, had some matches, but nothing to make a fire to cook the birds. So he went into the church, found some old Bibles, so he used leaves from one of them to start the fire, and he roasted those birds. And so he now said to himself, okay. Mother made three killed Flory. Flory killed 10, the dead carried the living. The word of God roasted meat for me to eat. Finally, he reached the king's house. And there were all the suitors, doctors, lawyers, ministers, all of them asking their riddles. Now, you understand I said old witch boy. He does have a real name, which is Crick, short for Cricket, because he can't meet no king without a name, you see. He stepped up to meet all of them. All of the big men who had come to court the beautiful daughter of the king. He looked terrible, with ragged clothes and his foot all festered with chiggles. Each asked a riddle, and as they asked him, the king's daughter gave the answer without any trouble. She was sitting behind a screen so no one could see her face to face. All right now, so Crick's time came, and he said, Mother made three. Three killed Flory. Flory killed 10. The dead carried the living. The word of God roasted meat for me to eat. Right? Got it? The king's daughter sat down, and now she had to really think. What is it now? What can be the meaning? So she called all of her advisors to her. Then the doctor, the lawyer, the juryman, every wise soul she could find, but she couldn't figure out the answer. Finally, she said, Daddy, tell the man to come back with his answer, because I can't unriddle it for him at all. Well, the king saw the old witch boy had won his daughter, so he had his feet washed and cleaned, and new clothes brought, and they had him come into a room. But all the advisors there, see, they were upset, and they didn't want the king's beautiful daughter to be married to this old witch boy. So they decided to give him another test. They put something in a glass and covered it all over, and then told old witch boy that if he could tell them what was in the glass, then he wouldn't die. Otherwise, he's a dead man. Old witch boy looked at that glass, and he said to himself, Poor me, poor old little cricket. And the advisors just fell to the ground, mad and crying, because of course that is what they had in the glass, a poor little cricket. The end. So I like this story. I like stories about riddles and people trying to figure them out, because the riddles be so silly, you know. They just come up with them on the spot almost, and they just come up with a riddle that, you know, they like in the story. He's just traveling down the way, and as life goes on, it's a riddle is formed. And I think that's what's interesting about it, because it's just the riddle's about life. Literally, the riddle was about his life. I wish they could have told the daughter what the answer was, but you know how King's advisors and the poor little boy from the street can't upgrade like that, right? That's just wrong. That's out of place, out of your class, out above, above your level. You're shooting for the moon, son. What are you doing here? And we get told that a lot, right? You'll see a guy trying to talk to, the guy that's supposed to be the ugly guy, or the girl that's supposed to be the ugly girl, trying to talk to who's supposed to be the most popular. We've seen it in the movies and everything like that. And what happens? They wind up getting them anyway. People try to stop them and they wind up getting the person anyway. So I'm telling you this. If you see somebody who is above your level by other people's standards, and you feel that you have a shot, shoot your shot. Men and women, shoot your shot. Stop thinking that this person, just because they're so beautiful or so handsome or have so much money or so successful, that they're out of your league, because they're not. Shoot your shot, see what happens. Worst thing they can do is tell you no. And if you are, and if you're that person, tell them no nicely. Don't be like, no crazy stuff, No craziness. Just tell them no. You're not feeling them, okay? But watch who you don't. Watch who you tell no, because they may come around in the next 10 years and be multi-millionaires. You be sitting there looking like, God, I had a chance when they was broke. But anyway, I like Old Witch Boy. His name being Cricket, and that's what, winds up being in the glass, a cricket. Sometimes we talk about how people name their kids weird names, and you never know. It could be a situation like this. Their weird name could be exactly what brings them success. So, on top of that, name your children whatever you want. There's quite a few stories from St. Vincent about old witch boys, and like I said previously, the old witch boys, the Obey Man, the Conjuring Man. A lot of times they go back and forth. This one just seems to be a poor kid, but he had a dream and he went for it and he got it, and I love it. I love that type of story. He didn't let anything stand in his way. Even his mother, really, his mother tried to poison him. What? What kind of mom is this? I don't even know what to say about them. They ran past that so fast in the story that, really, if you're a mom, don't be this kind of mom. Don't try to sabotage your kids. This is just wrong. Okay? But yeah, again, I love the story, and I thank you for listening to the story and listening to me do what I do here on this podcast. All right. As always, I just want you guys to continue doing what you're doing, and have a day, and have a blessed day. This is your AfroTales recipe of the week. Breadfruit pie. Ingredients: 1 breadfruit, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 3 tablespoons butter, 3 tablespoons all-purpose flour, 1.5 cups evaporated milk, 2 tablespoons fresh parsley chopped, 1/4 Scotch bonnet pepper diced, 1 tablespoon dry mustard, 1/2 cup Monterey Jack cheese, 1 cup medium cheddar cheese grated, reserved for topping, 1/2 cup onions diced, 1 pinch ground nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon ground black pepper. Directions. Preheat oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius. Cut off the stem of the breadfruit, then rest on a flat side of the counter and cut into wedges. Peel the skin off with a potato peeler or sharp paring knife. Remove the sort of spongy center, almost a continuation of the stem, so we're left with a wedge of all breadfruit meat. Rinse with cool water. Place in a deep pot and cover with water. Bring to boil, add salt, and allow to cook until tender for 20 minutes. In another saucepan, heat the butter on low heat. Then as it melts, add the all-purpose flour and cook for 4 to 5 minutes. Add the evaporated milk, then turn up the heat to medium and whisk. Add fresh parsley, Scotch bonnet pepper, dry mustard, Monterey Jack cheese, most of the medium cheddar, 1 cup, onion, ground nutmeg, and ground black pepper. Cook for a few minutes until you have thick and smooth sauce. Slice each wedge of cooked breadfruit about 1/4 inch thick. Then place a layer onto a greased cooking dish. Add a layer of cheese sauce, then another layer of sliced breadfruit on top with the remaining cheese sauce. Sprinkle on the rest of the grated cheese on top. Place in the middle rack of preheated oven and bake for 30 minutes. Let it cool for a few minutes, then dig in. That is your AfroTales recipe of the week. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for supporting and sharing this podcast with your family and friends. You can always find AfroTales Podcast on Anchor, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to leave me a message or a tweet, I can be found on Twitter at AfroTalesCast, on Instagram and Facebook at AfroTalesPodcast, and now on Coffee at coffee.com/AfroTales Podcast, where you can financially support me for the price of 1 small cup of coffee. However you support, I thank you and I appreciate it always. So until next time, have a great day.